Good evening, friends. Myself, Dr. Nidhi Darbari, on My Education Treasure. In my previous video on Mimansa philosophy, I had discussed about perception, comparison, testimony, postulation, and non perception as sources of knowledge. Today, in my present video, I will be discussing about ANUMAN or inference as non-perceptual sources of knowledge of Mimansa philosophy. Anuman or inference. The second kind of praman is called inference or anuman. Inference is a kind of knowledge which is based on the previous cognition. In perception, we have direct knowledge of an object because there is a direct presentation of an object before our sense organs. Therefore, perceptual knowledge is immediate, pratyaksh. In perception, there is no such direct presentation of the object, and therefore it is called paroksh gyan or mediate knowledge. In Anuman, an object is inferred to be present in a particular case because it has been invariably perceived to be present in all such similar cases. Thus, in Anuman, the cognition of an object is based on our prior knowledge of it. For example, we see smoke in a distant hill. From the presence of smoke, we at once infer that there must be fire in the distant hill. The validity of knowledge. Validity of knowledge according to the Mimansa school is called Swatah Pramarnevad. Let us see what it is. How is knowledge valid? What are the conditions of valid knowledge? For example, if I have to see a thing, my eyes should be free of defect. If there is defect in my eyes, then I cannot see the thing clearly. Hence, the condition that generates knowledge should be free of defects. Only this will result in valid knowledge. Moreover, this knowledge should be beyond doubt. Whenever there are sufficient conditions for the generation of a particular kind of knowledge, there arises at once that kind of knowledge containing an element of belief of the object known. For example, when our normal eyes fall on an object conveniently situated in broad daylight, there is visual perception. When we hear someone speak a meaningful sentence, we have knowledge from his testimony. When there are sufficient premises, inferences takes place. That we act on such knowledge in everyday life as soon as we believe in it, as soon as it arises, and the fact that such knowledge lead to successful activity and not to any contradiction shows further that such knowledge is valid. When, however, the condition required for the generation of that kind of knowledge are known to be wanting, if, for example, the eyes are jaundiced, light is insufficient, premises are doubtful, or words are meaningless, etc., no such knowledge arises, neither therefore does any belief arise, so only as the ground for doubt and disbelief do not disappear from these facts, two conditions are drawn by the Mimansa. The validity of knowledge arises from the very condition that give rise to that knowledge and not from any extra conditions. Pramarnyam swatah utpatete. The validity of knowledge is also believed in or known as soon as the knowledge arises. This belief does not await the verification of the knowledge by some other knowledge, say an inference. This Mimansa view in its double aspect is known as the theory of intrinsic validity. This means that truth is self-evident. It is not verified by any other condition. That is, the validity of any knowledge is evident in the condition that generate that knowledge. Now, what if this knowledge is contradicted by any other knowledge? In such a case, we infer the falsity of knowledge. Thus, while validity of knowledge arises from the condition from which that knowledge arises, falsity of that knowledge arises due to extraneous conditions. Whenever any knowledge arises, it carries with it an assurance about its own truth. Sometimes knowledge may point out that this assurance is misleading or that the condition of knowledge is defective. In such a case, we infer from the existence of defective condition the falsity of the knowledge. Thus, the falsity of knowledge is ascertained by inference, while truth is self evident. To put the whole position simply, belief as normal belief is an exception. As perception, inference, and any other knowledge arise, we implicitly accept them, believe in them without further argument, unless we are compelled by some contrary evidence to doubt their validity or to infer their falsity. On this unsuspecting faith in our knowledge, our life runs smoothly. Against the Nyaya theory that validity is generated by extra condition over and above the ordinary condition which generate the knowledge, the Mimansa points out that those extra conditions really form a part of the normal conditions of that knowledge. Without them, there would be no belief and therefore no knowledge at all. Against the Nyaya view that the validity of every knowledge is ascertained by inference, the Mimansa points out that this would lead us to an infinite regress and activity would be impossible. If any knowledge, say a perception, before being acted upon were to be verified by an inference, then by the same Nyaya rule, that inference also would have to be verified by another inference, and so on, and there would have been no end to this process of verification, and life would have been impossible. As soon as we perceive of a tiger, he runs away. As soon as we infer the approach of a car from its horn, we guard our steps. If we are to wait for verifying our knowledge with the never ending series of inferences, we should have to wait forever before we could act on any knowledge. It is true that when there is any positive cause for doubt regarding any knowledge, we take the help of verifying inferences. But that only does the negative work of removing the obstacles that stand in the way of knowledge. After the obstacles are removed, knowledge arises out of its own usual condition, if present there, and along with it arises its validity and belief in its validity. If that verifying inference is unable to remove doubt, then that knowledge does not arise at all. If you found the video to be informative and interesting, I request you all to please give a like to my video to motivate me, share it with others, and subscribe it so that whenever I upload a new video, you will get a notification. Belief is authority, personal or impersonal, Vedic or non-Vedic, arises in a similar way. On hearing a meaningful sentence, we at once believe in what it says unless there are reasons for doubt or disbelief. Therefore, authority of the eternal, impersonal Ved also stand on its own legs. If validity is self-evident and not dependent on inference, arguments are necessary for the negative work of clearing the mind of doubts This being done, the Veda themselves reveal their own meaning, and belief invariably accompanies the understanding of these meanings. To secure a belief, all that the Mimansa does is to refute the possible ground on which the infallibility of the Ved may be doubted, and thus to prepare the mind for the immediate acceptance of what is known from the Ved. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan quotes Jnanasya pramanyam swatah apramanyam parartha. Thank you very much for patiently watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe.